Coming up on Network Africa. At least 8 people killed in armed raid near Oicha town in the Democratic Republic of Congo's North Kivu province. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi calls for urgent and additional support for nearly 8 million people displaced by conflict in Sudan. Plus, South Africa denies its International Court of Justice case against Israel was funded by Iran. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers. We begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 8 people have been killed in an armed raid near Oicha, a town in the North Kivu province. Families of the victims visited a morgue in the town where bodies had been wrapped in plastic bags for burial. According to the authorities, the attacks was perpetrated by the Allied Democratic Forces, an armed militia alleged with alleged ties to the Islamic State. The incident occurred when ADF gunmen reportedly stormed a village named Beiti in the Beni territory. Several attacks attributed to the ADF have been reported across the Beni over the past week. The DRC's armed forces say they have launched an operation against the militia in the western region of the territory. With nearly 8 million people displaced by the brutal conflict in Sudan, UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi is calling for urgent and additional support to meet their needs. Concluding a 3-day visit to Ethiopia this week, Mr. Grandi observed firsthand the efforts of the Ethiopian government, supported by UNHCR and partners, to assist Sudanese refugees who have recently arrived in the country. The UN refugee chief also traveled to Asosa in the Benihango-Gumuz region, meeting some of the over 20,000 refugees and asylum seekers currently hosted at the Kurmuk Transit Center. Since April 2023, over 100,000 people have crossed into Ethiopia from Sudan, including close to 47,000 refugees and asylum seekers. These come in addition to some 50,000 Sudanese refugees already in the country.
This is Kurmuk, the border between Sudan and Ethiopia. Through this border, 20,000 Sudanese refugees have crossed into Ethiopia to seek safety from the war in their country. They are part of almost 50,000 who have come to Ethiopia since April 2023, when the hostilities erupted in Sudan. Africans never shy away and are true to their reputation of being hospitable people, of being generous to the distressed. This is an appeal, this is naturally an appeal also to the international community. All these countries, including Ethiopia, are not rich countries, are not countries with a lot of resources. They need international help, they need burden sharing. And unfortunately, the Sudanese refugee crisis, displacement crisis, humanitarian crisis is one of the least funded in the world today. There are many other crises around the world. Some are acute, some make the headlines. We should not forget that for the people that I have just spoken to, that have fled from war in Sudan, their headline is their suffering day in and day out, and they need help.
In the meantime, the United States Treasury has imposed sanctions on 3 Sudanese companies they believe are funding the war in the country. According to the statement from the U.S. Treasury Department, those sanctions include Al-Khalij Bank, Al-Faqr Advanced Works, controlled by the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The third company, Zadna International, is linked to the Sudanese army. The statement says all 3 entities have undermined the peace, security and stability of Sudan, either by laundering money or raising funds from gold exports. The sanctions are part of measures aimed at stemming the 9-month war, which has killed over 12,000 people. On Tuesday, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the commander of the Sudanese army, called for a full-scale offensive against the RSF, adding that he is not interested in talks as they are a waste of time. Both the Army and RSF have been accused by the U.S. government and other civil rights groups of committing war crimes. However, both parties deny these accusations. In Kenya, President William Ruto says the country's mission to Haiti to help with gang violence will go ahead despite a court ruling it illegal. Mr. Ruto says the mission could go ahead as soon as next week if all the paperwork is done to satisfy the demands of the court. However, a Kenyan opposition leader has accused President Ruto of planning to defy the court ruling against the deployment of police to Haiti. Ekuru Alcott, who last week successfully challenged the planned deployment in court, says the president can only deploy the army and not the police. Last November, the Kenyan parliament ratified the deployment of 1,000 officers to lead a multinational force in Haiti, where gangs are attempting to expand their territorial control. But last week, a judge said Kenya's National Security Council, which is led by the president, does not have the authority to deploy regular police outside of the country. Let's get more on this. Cyrus Mbati is a journalist in Kenya. He joins us now on the program. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, sure.
Right, so help us understand, the plans by the president to go ahead with the Haiti mission despite a court ruling against it.
Thank you. What we understand is that in the ruling, the judge said that there was no reason for the system, as in the country which is supposed to host Kenya did not ask for help. So what Kenya, so that now Kenya can be able to kind of respond to them and say, we are ready to come for help because there's an emergency need in Haiti. So as we are speaking now, the officers who are meeting somewhere in town in the headquarters of the police, they're drafting a memorandum of understanding will now be sent to Haiti for Haiti now to write back to Kenya so it can be signed together to become a kind of reciprocity in a way, responding to the request from Haiti to go for the mission.
Right. Help me also understand this. We've reported this some time ago, before all these court cases. Yeah. What's the link? Why was Kenya so, hasty to say, what, we can bring in our own security forces, our police, our army, if need be, to help with your gang violence in Haiti? What's the link between Kenya and Haiti?
Oh, well, we understand America is leading the whole program. America, and Canada, they're the ones leading the whole exercise. It's America which approached Kenya because we understand the regional countries are actually reluctant to lead the operation. And at stake is money. There is almost $200 million, which Kenyans are saying is good money for us. So when America came on board, I said, can we kind of give us police, paramilitary police who can go there and fight this gang? And you understand there's those international players who are coming, who are trying to come in China and Russia, they're trying to come to Haiti. So America does not want that. So Kenya accepted that. There's issue of money, there's issue of being given weapons for the operation and choppers, vehicles. So it's about interest in the region which America wants to control. So if you look at it, the way they are pushing the agenda, it's America which is pushing the agenda so that Kenya can lead the operation there.
Right, and to clarify, the court is against the deployment of just police and not the army. Does this mean the army could be deployed anytime soon, even if the police don't go yet?
They're exploiting a section of the law under the National Police Service, which allows that process to take place if the hosting country makes a request. As I said earlier on, now Kenya is asking Haiti to write to Kenya, so that now they can allow, Kenya can reciprocate in a way now by sending their troops to Haiti. That's even the judge. That's what he said, that there was no formal request from Haiti. So this time around, Haiti is doing that the same, so that they can allow the project to go on.
Right, and East Africa is dealing with its own, share of security challenges. What's the, Kenya's government's reason for, to head to this mission? You already said that the United States is also involved and all that, but, a lot of African countries may have said, what, we are not going. So what's the Kenya government's main reason for saying we are going to join the mission to end gang violence in Haiti?
Well, it's a political process, as I said earlier, and there's the issue of money, interest of money, and there's the issue of being recognized as now you're participating in an international mission. I mean, there's no big reason to say per se, because, as we say, there's a fair share of problems we have in the country. But now, because of the politics involved, because of money, all those interests which are involved now, Kenya has to agree to send their troops there. I mean, even in the country as we are speaking, we have many problems which the police are lacking. The upper part of the country, we are facing many cattle rustling incidents. So we can't say that we don't have enough problems to face or to use the police to attack. But that's where we are. We have to do it.
Right, Cyrus, a pleasure having you again on the program today.
Pleasure having you.
Burkina Faso's military-backed president says Russian troops could deploy to fight jihadists in the West African country if needed. In an interview, Ibrahim Traoré said Russia is offering logistical and tactical training, and they are willing to sell whatever weapons are required to Burkina Faso. He also adds that there are no restrictions on what can be bought from Russia, China, Turkey, or Iran, unlike other countries. This comes amid reports that at least 100 Russian fighters were sent to the African country as military instructors last week. The development also fuels speculation of Burkina Faso deepening security ties with Russia, like neighboring Mali, where Russian Wagner mercenaries operate. The junta-led country's relations with Moscow have been in the spotlight since it booted out French troops in early 2023. Burkina Faso has been battling Islamist groups like Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, which have taken other large swathes of land and displaced millions of people in the Sahel region. Well, South Africa's Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor has denied allegations that the ruling ANC party received financial backing from Iran to file its case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. During a press briefing on Wednesday, the Foreign Minister referred to the accusation as counter-offensive by Israel and its allies. The minister revealed that she had complained to the International Criminal Court over what she termed its slow pace of action on South Africa's referral against Israel, including the delay in issuing an arrest warrant for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ms. Pandor also stated that all countries have an obligation to stop funding Israel's military actions in Gaza, maintaining that financial support could be tantamount to assisting the Commission of Genocide. Last week, the ICJ delivered a ruling in the case saying that Israel must take all measures to prevent genocidal acts in Gaza. Meanwhile, health ministers from the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, have rejected a proposal to declare cholera a public health emergency in the region. Sylvia Masebo, the Africa Center for Disease Control Board chairperson, says individual countries should independently decide whether to declare the cholera outbreak as a health emergency or not. Speaking during the CDC extraordinary session in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Ms. Masebo, who is also Zambia's health minister, urged members to develop proactive interventions to curb the spread of the disease. The current outbreak has affected about 15 SADC member states, with Zambia battling the worst outbreak in decades. Zimbabwe and Malawi have also been affected by the current cholera outbreak. The SADC leaders are set to hold a virtual summit on Friday to assess the state of preparedness and responses to the cholera outbreaks in the region. And still ahead on the program, a blind Tunisian electrician is rewiring public prejudice on people living with disability. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Here in Nigeria, the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, says women in the health sector have the capacity to address the Jacques syndrome, as it's popularly called, confronting the sector. Professor Pate made this comment during the inaugural launch of the Women in Healthcare Network in Lagos. He says medical practitioners who have relocated to acquire more knowledge have the opportunity to return home and bring incredible value that will improve healthcare services in the country.
And Women across diverse healthcare fields converge on Harbour Point in Lagos Island for the official launch of Women in Healthcare Network, a platform to connect with medical professionals with one collective goal to build a better health sector.
With every shy girl out there,
The Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, Chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, amongst others, are here to support community of women in the medical space. The brain behind WIHCN initiative is Dr. Modupe Elebute Odunsi, who specializes in internal medicine, hematology. She says the group is ready to build a formidable workforce that will reshape the industry.
The most important thing, the one I'm most passionate about, is that we're going to run mentoring programs to really help the younger generation understand that there's a lot that we can do in healthcare here in Nigeria. And we need to do it. We need to do it to excellent standards.
The minister and the NIDCAM chairman believe the women's medical role cannot be ignored and promise that government will collaborate with the network to deliver quality services.
When we talk about the human resources and the JAPA, I will dare say that the women in healthcare are an important piece of the puzzle in addressing that. Because if you look at the drivers of it, you might find that, in fact, the attachment, the convening, there's a lot that you can be able to do. And as we train more, hopefully we'll return more. And for those who have gone, bring them back like Dr. Modupe has now come back.
For the Diaspora Commission, we're hoping that we can resuscitate what we call the Diaspora Professional Healthcare Initiative, where all our doctors, medical practitioners can come together and decide, on making an impact collectively. So we look forward to working with you. We call on everyone to support you. And I know that with this network, you will change a lot of narratives in the healthcare industry in Nigeria.
The likes of Dr. Stella Adadevo, who sacrificed her life to curb the spread of Ebola in Nigeria, cannot be forgotten. And the federal government calls for more recognition for women.
In 2014, the indomitable Dr. Ameyo Stella Adadevo took a courageous stand that ultimately cost her life to prevent the insidious spread of Ebola. We were also witnesses to the remarkable dedication of Dr. Amarachukwu Allison, who identified Nigeria's first case of COVID-19. This testament underscores the non-negotiable role women play in safeguarding the health and well-being of our nation, reminding us that their resilience and courage are indispensable pillars in the fortification of our collective health security systems.
With the launch of Women in Healthcare Network, the federal and state government believe the initiative will go a step further to elevate the standard of healthcare in Nigeria.
Zambia's former president Edgar Lungu has asked citizens to call for an early election, accusing his successor, popularly known as HH, of failing to run the country and the economy. Mr. Lungu also accused President Hichilema of failing to manage the cholera outbreak, which has claimed the lives of nearly 600 people since last October. Speaking at an opposition media briefing, Mr. Lungu said Zambians should put pressure on the president to accept that an early election was imperative. However, there was a swift response from the government dismissing Mr. Lungu's allegations and urging Zambians to give the president enough time to deliver his campaign promises. The former leader was accused of ruining the country's economy during his 6 years in office. Mr. Lungu announced a comeback to politics last October, prompting the government to withdraw his retirement benefits. Ethiopian rebel group Oromo Liberation Army has burned vehicles that ignored its call for a transport strike in the populous Oromia region. That's according to local media reports. Those reports say many businesses, including banks and government offices, have been closed since the strike was declared on Monday. Several trucks were destroyed in various parts of Oromia during the strike that also left some civilians injured. The OLA claims to fight the self-determination of the Oromo people, Ethiopia's largest ethnic group. It was designated a terrorist organization by the Ethiopian Federal Parliament in May 2021. The National Army continues to conduct operations against the group. Let's head now to Tunisia to meet a blind Tunisian man that's rewiring public prejudice. As an electronics expert, he finds it difficult to convince his customers of a perfect job on their devices that need to be repaired.
Zohair Al-Riyahi is a blind electric repairman from Bou Arada in the Siliana Governorate. He gained popularity among Tunisian locals after stories published on social media. He was posted online showing his work repairing electrical appliances, including computers and audio speakers. The craftsman masterly handles electronic appliances in his workshop by relying on his sense of touch, recognizing every piece with his hands. The craftsman speaks about the main challenges he encounters in his career, which have more to do with psychology than his repair skills.
The difficulties I face are to convince people and customers. Some customers bring me malfunctioned electric devices to repair them. But when they discover that I am blind, they change the shop in the belief that my capabilities are limited and I'm unable to repair them.
Zohair Al-Riyahi himself admits that not all customers are happy to be helped by a blind worker.
The customers have reduced my value and professional experience, and this is what affected my psyche and increased my determination to continue working and developing in this field. Some encourage me to continue and respect the opinions of all customers, and I will not be defeated by their negative reading towards me. Today, electronic devices have developed in the world. For example, TVs previously were a large screen, but they have become smart screens. I study and read books of electric specialization through the internet while listening to videos explaining the maintenance process of modern electronic devices. That's added a lot to my life and allowed me to develop and pursue my dreams.
He encourages other people living with disability.
I address my voice to the people with disabilities in the world. There are difficulties. There are also solutions. The difficulties are that I am blind, and solutions are possible in repairing and knowing the components of electric devices. I can also make new devices, helping me to gain confidence and challenge difficulties.
Zohair Al-Riyahi reportedly fell in love with radio devices after he turned blind and started growing fond of radio programs and music. Now his story of overcoming the odds has moved internet users.
A vessel carrying a 34,000-ton shipment of potassium fertilizer has arrived at the Nigerian port of Onne. Footage shows workers unloading the fertilizer and bagging it for transport. The Oralchem Group, a Russian manufacturer, confirmed the arrival via its press office on Wednesday. The company also stated that since the end of 2022, it had shipped over 134,000 tons of fertilizer to Africa free of charge, with over 111,000 tons to Malawi, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria from European Union ports and warehouses with the assistance of the UN World Food Programme. Oralchem is also reportedly set to transfer around 300,000 tons of fertilizer to developing countries as part of the UN's goal of eliminating hunger, ensuring food security, improving food supply, and promoting sustainable agriculture. Ethiopia's premier says that the first aircraft built in Ethiopia in 1935 has been handed back to the country by Italy. It had been taken during Italy's fascist era, during the occupation of what was then Abyssinia, eventually going on display in Italian Aviation Museum in Rome. It was formally given to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed at a ceremony in Rome, and he said it marked a day of great pride for the country. Known as Sehai, the green, red and yellow aircraft is said to have been named after then Emperor Haile Selassie's daughter. Well, that's our program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.